So I'm Larry Bradner, and I've had an 80 years connection with this parish in one way or another. Looking up at this substantial and beautiful church structure, one would not have believed it 8 years before it was built. This building was completed in 1917 only because two previous congregations were merged and their strength was put together to make it. But 7 years before, these two other congregations were sleepy congregations that were not trying very hard. We could not use the common expression struggling congregations because they weren't trying that hard. In 1910, the vestry of the little church that was on this corner, one of the two previous parishes, told the annual meeting that they still had a $9,000 debt that they needed to pay off. So someone in the congregation said, "Oh, let's sell off the rest of the land that we're not using, and that'll pay the debt." But shortly after that, Mr. and Mrs. James Lister stood up, and they came to the vestry and said, "We will pay half of that $9,000 if the parish will pay the rest and take the land off the market." And by that slender thread, the whole future of this congregation hung. Now, the other congregation, the Church of the Savior on Benefit Street, the newspaper said that on the day they had their vote to merge or not to merge, that if they didn't vote to merge, he would leave, because he told the reporter, "I have not been adequately supported here." Not only these lay people, the Listers, but also Dr. Washburn, our first rector, and Bishop James DeWolf Perry, who was pushing the merger and kind of supervising its planning. Now, both of these men had considerable knowledge and interest in church art and architecture, and we are the beneficiaries of their interest in that. And I think especially Bishop Perry, being the older man, helped steer Dr. Washburn towards some people who were really going to be helpful in that respect. We find ourselves in the early 20th century in what is sometimes called the late period of Gothic revival in church buildings. And instead of seeing splendid buildings like Grace Church, Providence, or Trinity Church in Wall Street in New York, they were modeling their churches after the neighborhood or village church rather than the magnificent church. And that's what St. Martin's was based on. But the other thing that came along in the late Gothic revival period was the interest in the arts and crafts movement, which meant bringing a lot of color into the church, painting stones with color, painting wood with color, and bringing back a sense of vividness visually to what people would experience in church.